I think that's one of the interesting things. But uh, so you made so you were working in academia. You were successfully doing work in anomaly detection and data analysis. And as you entered industry, essentially the demands changed for what was required of you.
Yeah, definitely. So I decided I wanted to change what my focus was, mainly because the opportunities were becoming more and more available around about 2014. It will have been towards the end of 2013. And I'd been keeping tabs on basically what had been happening from even just from a recruitment perspective. Opportunities were coming up for folks with our backgrounds, with doctoral level qualifications in the areas of data science more broadly, but statistical practice and time series analysis and all these things. And it was just a very exciting time to then have a look at what options were available to someone who wanted to try something a bit different and maybe go and work for a bigger software team or work for a startup, for example. And that actually is what I ended up doing. I found an opportunity to work for a startup based in London called Music Metric. And the product was basically like a music analytics dashboard that took aggregates of social media and other kind of, I suppose, social network-based metrics and presented those to folks who were interested in tracking artists from a kind of commercial performance perspective. They also had a really unique data set, and they used some clever polling of the BitTorrent network to get a measurement of how much individual file had been pirated based on its usage on the BitTorrent network. So that was a really interesting data set to have a look at from the perspective of it gave insight into something in 2014 that was still very prevalent, maybe before the streaming services had such a grip on everybody's use nowadays.
Personally funded by Lars Ulrich of Metallica, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a long story, going from way back in the Napster days. Mm-hmm. But at the time, BitTorrent was the major. I mean, I'm actually not sure if, in terms of peer-to-peer sharing, I presume there still is plenty that goes on. But certainly at the time, that was a huge topic in the music industry. And the engineers had built like an entire process behind the scenes that would, as a product, would poll this network and save the data for kind of insights to be delivered to folks who were interested in this. So the clients we kind of had were like Google and Spotify and A&R agents for individual kind of labels and artists and things like that. So it was a really interesting data set to work with. And the idea was it wasn't necessarily to find things. This is where the shift was from my experience within academia. It wasn't so much you're not looking for research novelty or to write a paper or to try and take a problem set and think how you're going to uniquely contribute to that area, which is obviously the central part of what we do in academia in many cases. It was just trying to find what are the kind of useful insights and what are the useful potential product developments you can make off the back of that. And we certainly did some kind of researchy type work as well, but that was the biggest change for me, and the change in mindset was looking at the available resources and then looking to deliver business value, I think, rather than looking at the kind of research novelty aspect, which I'd been so used to working in academia as part of my research department. And that's been quite an adjustment, I have to say. Like I certainly, speaking to folks who come from, it's a fairly typical, I suppose, trajectory for people to come on towards data science, as you come from a background where you're working in a research team, you're writing papers and you're contributing to journals, and then to come into industry, it can be a bit of a mindset shift to try and, because you find yourself drawn to like the shiny aspects of really interesting deep questions when there's potentially a lot of much lower hanging fruit that will deliver immediate business value that you have to focus upon. And that was a huge adjustment for me, certainly in the first few years of me moving away from academia towards this more data science environment. And to be honest, the first few years of working, we actually ended up becoming a part of Apple. We were acquired as they looked to spin up Apple Music and the analytics arm behind that. It was still very focused on, I guess, analytics, really. It was still doing a lot of reporting and kind of making sense of the data. And then beyond that, I decided I was more interested in, rather than doing things it's maybe looking at things from a reporting perspective with data science, looking at data sets and trying to make sense of them to communicate insights or trying to communicate just the nature of the data to stakeholders who maybe aren't necessarily skilled in that area. I decided I wanted to be more in taking the data and trying to build features as part of software systems. So I went on to be a part of the team at Skyscanner, which is the big travel search engine. And since then, I've worked for a few teams, and the focus has been much more on taking data and trying to take the data and leverage that as an input to the software systems to provide some kind of product value from the data as an asset, rather than doing the kind of reporting part of it.